I want to talk to Tim. Tim, who is calling in from Washington. Tim is a repeat caller of the show. Love talking to you. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Dan? Jamie, great to see you. I believe that I've seen you somewhere before because you look familiar, but I don't think I've ever heard you talk about sentience. I wanted to begin, first of all, by saying Alex O'Connell has actually convinced me to go vegan because of some of the videos that he's put out. But that's not really the point of my question. You talked about earlier needless suffering. And where I have a friend who was railed against because he volunteered to euthanize a dog who was suffering, and the human didn't have the money to take the dog to the vet. And he said, well, I've got a gun. I can do it for you. And he was railed against because this dog has been suffering. And my question for you is, when it comes to needless suffering, would it be then within the sentient morality or basis of thinking to consider euthanasia, even for humans and animals both, because these people are suffering for needless reasons and all of that?
What a great question,
Tim. Yeah, great question. Thank you, Tim. And yeah, Alex O'Connell is a bold advocate for these ideas. He's someone who's obviously gone down the atheist, free-thinking humanist path and is now, being just as robust and strong on the animal ethics story as well. So it's impressive to see. And the short answer I'd give is yes, because in the same way as a humanist, I think, would consider euthanasia as, or most humanists would consider euthanasia as a valid option for a human that is experiencing, suffering that can't be alleviated and is awful. I think a sentientist would think that was a valid option for a non-human animal as well. Now, there's, of course, some extra complexity in that when we're looking at human euthanasia, it's nearly always driven by the consent or the request of the human concerned, although there are some situations where, the human might be so incapacitated they're unable to consent or engage. So that adds a level of complexity, but I think ethically what we'd be trying to do is imagine, however imperfectly, that we are in the situation of the dog and try and do what's best for it. And that might be, to end its life rather than to allow suffering to continue. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question. But again, I would reiterate that, people who subscribe to sentientism in the same way as people subscribe to humanism have radically broad and diverse views about how to make ethical decisions. All we're really saying is that as you work that through, you just have to have moral consideration for each of those individual sentient beings as you're working it through. So that's a short and a slightly longer answer, Tim.
That's awesome, because that's exactly how I feel. I mean, the way that you just described it is exactly how I feel. And what I told my friend, too, is that you were doing the right thing. That poor dog is suffering. His quality of life is down. You were willing to help his human not watch him suffer and get so debilitated. So that's awesome. Thank you for that answer, because that made me feel kind of good for the way that I was thinking, because I was almost afraid that I was a heartless creature. So,
well, Tim, I think about this question myself, because as you know, and I've talked about this on the show, Pico, my cat, has feline leukemia. I found that out pretty early when I got him, and so his average lifespan is going to be much shorter than the average cat, most likely. As soon as he gets sick, his white blood cell count isn't going to be able to cover for him, and my vet clinic is just a couple minutes away. I will euthanize him, because I think that's the most loving and compassionate thing I can do for my little companion. because with the alternative is that he suffers longer than he has to. And I don't think he wants that. And that is me making a judgment on his behalf, which I wish I could get his full consent on. And unfortunately, I can't. But I using my judgment and reason, I think I'm doing what's most compassionate and what's most ethical in the situation given to me. And I sleep pretty well at night knowing that that's going to be the likelihood of his passing, because he probably will not live the normal life of a cat. So, yeah, it's tough. And other vegans I've noticed too actually disagree on the euthanasia issue. I think humanists, broadly speaking, are in support of right to die kind of ethics under the right circumstances, of course. But it's not completely solved. Obviously, again, there's those issues of consent. There's those issues of really understanding what an animal wants. But I'm pretty confident in my assessment, and I think you should be too, Tim. That's what makes sense to me, So, yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for calling in, Tim.
Right.
I always appreciate hearing from you.
Enjoying the show. Thank you.
Thanks you so Tim. Much. Yeah, it's a tough question, but it's a good one. It's a good conversation to have, even if it's not about a good situation. Right?
It is. And often there's, there isn't, like with many of these moral questions, there is no perfect answer. You're always acting with imperfect information, imperfect judgment. But I think if, as Tim was doing, you're thinking with genuine compassion and doing your best to think about the perspective of whether it's a human or a non-human involved, what more can we ask?